गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉर्ट. गना शॉर्ट में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we are going to undertake a journey into China's demographic collapse. This is only the first part where I'll give you a whole lot of statistics. I won't say a whole lot, back up my arguments with statistics and do some projections ahead. And then in the second part, I will correlate it with economics and things like that based on what information I got, plus what some of you have given me. Right? Very important. I mean, many of us don't understand this phenomenon which is happening in China. It is a silent killer. It is cutting China free from underneath. And we need to keep track of it. If China collapses, it will be because of its demographic collapse. And it is happening at the fastest rate in human history. What happened in Western countries over a century or a century and a half has happened in China in just about 25 years. I said 25 years, it might be less. Even Japan, its demographic collapse started long back, much more. Right? And when people talk of Japanification of China and all that, that's the closest model. But even in that, China cuts it by half. The issue is a catastrophe is looming ahead. People don't realize it. Let me start by saying, look, life is about people. You need people to make a nation. You need people. Economy is about people, their livelihood. It's not about parties. It's not about robots. It's not about technology or rare earth or EVs. People make the nation. And that is disappearing. That entity, that singular entity which makes a nation, is disappearing very fast in China. Interestingly, the Han population is the one which is disappearing. Not the Tibetan population, not the other nationalities of China or so-called China. They are going normal. Okay. It's the Han population which is disappearing. And the disappearance is in their heartland. Where is their heartland? Heartland is not in the center. Their heartland is along the coast, which are the major production agents, the most productive part of China. And that is where China is losing its population. Right. Let's dive. There's this gentleman called Gautam Premchand, who is one of you, one of my audience. He sent me a mail 4 days back when I put this thing out that we're going to do on population. And he sent me some terrific data, and I'm going to present it to you. Because unless we understand this data, we'll go nowhere. Now, he sent me data about the total fertility rate. If you look at the fertility rates of major provinces of China along the east coast, which is where their production is all about, the major production centers, from north to south, you see Jilin, right? Jilin, 0.376. That's their fertility rate. Okay. Hebei, 0.55. Shandong, 0.6. Jiangsu, 0.48. Zhejiang, 0.6. Guangdong, 0.8. Now, let me explain something fundamental about what this fertility rate is. It is the number of children that a woman produces in her lifetime. Okay. They say that if the fertility rate is below 2.1, the population starts collapsing. What is this 2.1? You have to understand, right? 2.1 means that if every family has two children, right? I mean, a father and a mother, they procreate two children. So when the father and mother die, the replacement is two of their children who replace in the population. Okay, so the population is kept stable. So 2.1 is the mark, for many things like deaths, unforeseen deaths, premature, all that. So it's 2.1. So if your fertility rate is less than 2.1, your population starts shrinking. If your fertility rate is more than 2.1, it starts increasing. This metric of 2, that is a father and mother being replaced by two children, is the crux of the whole story, which people have to understand. When now you say that a place has got 0.37, what does it mean? It means in four families or five families or six families, there's one child. So you're not. So the population is collapsing at a huge rate. Even if the fertility rate is only one, that means one child per family. That's what the implication of the one child policy is. Right? One child per family. Your population is shrinking. Now, one third of that is 0.37 or zero point 0.6 is 60% of that, 40% of that, of the two which you needed. Right? So you can imagine at what rate it is shrinking. Okay, now there's something else. Gautam sent me this beautiful set of graphs. Initially, I didn't understand these too much, but then I got hold of them. Let me explain. This is a graph of a particular city or a particular province. If you see here, the population went up and suddenly started decreasing, and it is here now. Okay. And interestingly, in this graph, what I found was that what you will find as you see, I know it's a little small, that's why I took one graph and magnified it. At nowhere in this period, this is from 2013, at nowhere in this period, their fertility rate has gone past 1.1. That's it. And now it's somewhere here, 0.4, whatever. Now I arranged all those, which I showed you earlier, all these provinces, the graphs of these provinces, which Gautam sent me in a straight line, and I traced three lines on it. Three lines. It came out like this. 2013 onwards, right? This is 2013 line. That's when the graph starts. That fertility rate has been less than 2. So that means from 2013, that's when the graph starts, but actually the problem is even further back. Right? The fertility rate is less than 2. The population has been shrinking for the past 15 years. If I say maybe a little more, we'll come to it a little more. The peak was at 2015 of all these places, which are endangered provinces. Okay, is it 15? Even then, the highest was 1.3, 1.4. And there's a steep decline from 2018-19 to now. This is 2018-19. And now it's gone down. It's almost irretrievable. This is the magnitude of the problem in China. And we don't understand it. Right? You talk of EVs, you talk of rare earths, you talk of all nonsense. Military, missiles, all that. Fundamental, everything is about people, and people are vanishing at pace. Right. Now, from here, I'm going to take a different tack. You have to go back and see what are the effects of all this. This was Deng Xiaoping's speech going back to 89. He then said two conditions are indispensable for development goals of China. One was stable environment at home and peaceful environment abroad. And then he said China can accomplish nothing without peace and unity. in politics and a stable social order. Stability must take precedence over everything. This demographic collapse, right, threatens the stable environment at home. It threatens the stable social order, for which the Communist Party has no answer. And why it has no answer? They have lied to themselves and to the world so often that they don't know their own truth, where they stand. It might be, it might sound funny to all of you, but this is it. I don't think China knows its own problem. Okay, last year, sometime, Xi Jinping came and said, look, he weighed the pros and cons of China's shrinking population. Till then, he didn't speak. Very recently. Okay, what did he say? True communist, he was part of the system after all. He said past birth control policies were correct and effective. So that's the first thing, that communists can do no wrong. He says they eased pressure on resources and the environment and also forced economic development. But today the problem is they have reduced labor force, weaker consumer and investment momentum. He said that in the same breath. Right. He says we need to work to maximize benefits while avoiding the harm of this population decline. They call it decline, it's not a collapse per their thing. But then he also admitted in this thinking that pace of population transition is very fast. And then he first admitted, this is the first admission that population decline has come earlier than expected. This gives an indication that they didn't know, they were lying to themselves. And I'll prove it. Or they were lying to the world. And when the situation is getting out of their hand, this whole situation is out of their hand. Do what you may, it's out of their hand. Then he justifies by saying this population decline follows the general pattern of modernization development worldwide. It doesn't. There's no doubt that when nations develop and modernize, the population falls. But in China, it has outstripped everything. Why? Because this is a man-made decline. Just like Mao induced a man-made famine, which led, during the Great Leap Forward, which led to the death of 30 to 40 million people. Deng Xiaoping induced this man-made demographic decline, and we'll talk of it. It is now irretrievable. The whole story is that officially it has occurred 5 years earlier than the turning point predicted by the UN. UN said that around 2030, the population of China will start decreasing. But officially, it came out in 2024. Or maybe 2023. That's a minor thing. This is based on the data provided by China, which is false. Actually, this was predicted about 10 years back. The Chinese didn't bother. The thing now is there is no historical experience to deal with a population that is aging the fastest in human history. It's not aging, it's collapsing. There's no record. The nearest is Japan. And if you go by Japan's indices, which I will discuss in the next episode, the whole situation is horrendous. China has got no future. Now let me go back into their own history and their infographics. And this is from a Chinese website, which I picked out. This is not my data. Right? Must understand this. I go by their data. It was in 1980 that Mr. Deng Xiaoping introduced the one-child policy to bring down the population. Okay. In 1991, this is interesting. In 1991, look, they started the story in 1980. They adopted very drastic measures. And by 1991, China's replacement rate dropped below that needed to maintain a stable population. It had dropped by then. And this is from a Chinese website, mind you. Okay, so beautiful. It's a beautiful infographic, but that's how it is. So to think that the population TFR and all started off late is hogwash. In 2012, government demographers within China warned, this is the funny part. If all couples are allowed to have 2 children, the fertility rate will go more than 4.4 births per woman. I don't know how they did it. Despite indications in 1991, 23 years later or 21 years later, they felt that if everyone was allowed to have 2 children, the birth rate will go more than 4.4 births per woman. And this is where they started defeating themselves. Okay. Then, but 4 years later, they ended the one-child policy in favor of a two-child policy. By then, the indications are very clear that their demography was collapsing. They implemented, I wouldn't say implemented, they announced the one-child policy. But when they announced the one-child policy, their projection, this is the funny part, their projection was fertility would peak at 2.09 in 2018. Right? They said there's 2 more years. Until then, the fertility rate will be about 2. And by 23, it will decline to 1.75 and it will remain stable till 2050, where it will be 1.72. These are official projections of China. What is interesting is, how did they come to these conclusions? How did they come to these conclusions? Unless they were faking everything to themselves. Why were they faking to themselves? One reason is the amount of funds you get from the central pool depends on how much population you have. So they, at one side, they were implementing the one-child policy strictly, and on the other end, they were projecting a population which is completely different to get more funds. So all provinces had more population than they actually had. They were getting more funds based on that. Underneath, the ground was getting cut. Okay. In 21, they introduced the 3-child policy. Okay. And in 22, officially, the population decline started. The first time in 6 decades, the population started declining. Official. This is all official. This is, like I said, this is from a Chinese web. This entire nice graphic which I'm showing is from a Chinese website. You see how they're caught in their own lies. Okay. The current estimate is that China will struggle to stabilize its fertility rate at 0.08, and I'm being charitable. I'm being charitable about it. Okay. It's below 1 anyway. Right. Now let's take the population by broad age groups. This is a graph of the UN. The UN made this graph based on the data given by China. Official data. Right? This is for various age groups are in this. The red line is for 0 to 14. The green line is 15 to 24. You see how these are going down. Both these, that's the youth, that represents the birth rates are declining. And then this blue line is the peak of their population of 25 to 64, and that's also, it has peaked around this time. Okay, and I'll explain to you these lines further. And the 65 one plus is going up at some point of time beyond 2060 or so, even that will decline. Okay, this is the UN figures. So what I did this last year actually, or 223. This line is of 23. This red line is of 2030. This green line is of 2040 and 50. So I did this, transpose these figures into a matrix. What did I see? This is what I saw. And I will focus only on 2330 because after that the state is dismal. You'll see till 23, in 23, the population, as per official records, it's not so, as per official records, was 1.4 billion. And this is the distribution as per this graph of people. And when you see, as per this red line, that's this 2030 line, this is the correlationship. This is the distribution. The overall population reduces just by 5 million, not much. But the change which occurs is here, which I've highlighted. While the working age population doesn't decrease too much, the old age population increases. I'll get back to this graph later, right? Okay, we'll see some facts and figures. Now, all these complete story is contended by many people. But there's one guy called Yu Fuxian. Yu Fuxian was a Chinese demographer, basically a gynecologist. When he wrote a couple of books and articles about this demography, all that, he was shunted out of China. So he was shunted out of China and he went to USA. These days he's somewhere in Madison. He's in the Madison University, some university, and he keeps writing. And he's all his thing is available on Twitter and all that. But I'll give you, and he's written a book, something like a nest without birds or something like that. Right. Now, at that point of, he's come out with a few data. He has argued that China's population is 1.28 billion instead of 1.41 billion. Okay. This thing came out about 2 years back. Now, why? On what basis has he said this? Okay. The basis which he says is these graphs. Forget about all the graphs which are going down. The thing is, this graph is going down. Just look at it. This graph is going down. What is this graph show? It shows, look, when did the maternity clothes of women, strollers which are bought in women, and the cribs which are bought in, strollers which are bought in China, and the cribs which are sold in China, their data. You see the marked fall in, this sales. What does it indicate? No children. So based on this, plus what he did was he did an estimate based on BCG vaccines. How many vaccines are given to people? Because that tells you. So it's a complicated thing. I'll not go into it. So based on that, he has concluded that the population of China is 1.28 billion. And this conclusion he gave around 20, around that time. The dates don't matter much, but this was much before. Okay. Right. Now I'll get back to this graph. I've told you this is of 23, this is of 30, 40, 50. Same here. But what I've done in this is something very fundamental and simple. The difference between 1.28 billion, which he argues, 1.28 billion, which he argues, and 1.4 billion, which the government has claimed, is how much? 30 billion or 130 million. Okay, it's 130 million. It's the difference. 41 minus 28 is 0.13. That is 130 million. Now, if you take that out, of this 141, or as per the UN graphs. So this total is now 120, 1.28, which he said. Now you go along with these graphs, it is 175 here, it is 1225 and down below. I've not changed these figures so far. So if these totals are lesser, and I'll go by this, there are, if you go to some YouTube channel, they say it's 800. Some chaps say it's only 1 million. I've gone by some metric that is 1.28 billion. So 1.28 billion, this here. So if the reduction is 5 million over the next 4-5 years, it's 1.275, and it will be 1.225 later. This is as per that same this following these slopes. But then this is wrong then, isn't it? So I adjusted those figures on these figures. These figures need to be adjusted because they will all carry forward. And you have to also understand these figures won't vary. These are people who are living. That count can't be wrong. The count which has gone wrong in China is those figures, these people who are young, who are not born, or who are born, and that figure will be the one which is a doubt. The top figure of people who are 65 plus or over 30, 35 doesn't matter. When you say 25, you're looking at a chap who was born in 99, as of 23, right? So these figures won't change much. It is these figures which will change. But over a period of time, in 7 years, this figure also will start getting changed. So I appropriated it accordingly. This is a rough estimate, but the figures like this. In 23, if you say this is the thing, you see a sharp drop in 0 to 14 age group, 15 to 24 age group. These are the same. In 2030, the drop is even more, because this figure will not change. The number of old people won't change, but the number of young people has gone down. So the percentage of old people will go up, and this phenomenon will continue. And now, if you see the difference between here and here, in 7 years' time, China would have lost 50 million working hands. 25 to 64, I would say 25 to 60 age group is the working population. It would have lost 50 million people it will lose 50 million people in the next 5 years. And this is irreversible, and this is conservative. This is based on certain approximated estimates. And if you project it beyond that, okay, if you project it beyond that, this will go under 600 million. So the fall between 2030 and 2040 is going to be very steep. It's going to be very steep, and that is where, it's like going down a slope which has no full stop. You can't control it. Just think, we are all fathers, mothers, whoever are watching. What happens when your child goes down a slide where you can't control him, and the child doesn't know where he's going? China is in that state. Okay, this is it. This cartoon, it's a borrowed cartoon. I don't know who. This chap who's made it is here. It's not my own cartoon. Let me be very honest. I just found it, picked it to show it to all of you. Right? And here, old age is going out, children are going down, and of course, Xi Jinping is in between. The thing is that demographic decline is not reversible anymore. In fact, it is getting worse. So what's going to happen? There is a population decline, births and population. There's an aging and societal burden. Marriages and divorces are increasing, or rather, marriages are decreasing, divorces are increasing. Okay. This is China's population woes deepen as marriage registrations tumble. So I'm going to first talk of marriages. For the first time last year, the number of marriages in China have gone down. It's here. Marriage registrations in China could fall as low as 6.01 million. It's gone below 6 million, the lowest in their history. So if people are not getting married, they'll not procreate. If people are then getting married, they're still not procreating. So the effect is even worse. It's just not the fertility rate. The fertility rate is about people who got married and are not procreating. But you have to get married first to procreate. That has fallen. And that doesn't figure. That is why this whole story is got an unknown. Okay? Right. Now the thing is about marriage. Their economy is so bad, it is persuading people not to marry. In fact, they're giving up on marriage. And mind you, some of this English which I've picked up is other Chinese English. It's not my English. Because let me be honest, I plagiarize their English and their ideas. Because when you read their ideas and their English, you understand the depth of their whatever they've done. So the economy has persuaded a lot of hesitant people to give up marriage. Number of marriage registrations dropped. Now, China has made new rules. This is their desperation, where people can get married easily but can't get divorced. They are so desperate that they don't want to get divorced. I mean, they don't want to allow divorces. That hope like hell that the chap stays, whether he's happy or not, doesn't matter. He should be married. If he is married by some God's grace or the Communist Party's grace or Xi Jinping's grace, he produces a baby. He or she. Let me explain the larger thing. There are men who want to marry, but they have no means to marry. And this economic downturn won't help them marry. Because marriage is a costly business in China. Men have means to marry, but they don't want to marry. That's the next phenomenon. These are the phenomena which have come out if you analyze it. So they have money, but they don't want to marry because of the problems of marriage. Women have good jobs and they want independence, so they don't want to marry. Then there's another issue. Women are not available for marriage because of gender bias. Look, in China, female infanticide is rampant. Abortions based on sex determination is rampant. You think this problem is only in countries like India? At least we have banned it. Sometime back, people used to do sex determination and then go in for abortion thing. Today, any hospital in India tries that, they are liable for criminal, and legal issues. They can be charged. So then no one does that anymore. No doctor takes the thing. Of course, there will be unscrupulous people, but then that's how it is. Okay. But in China, there's no ban on this. So there is a lot of female infanticide. So the gender bias is there. They don't have enough women. Then it's too costly to marry. Because there's an economic downturn, pay is lower, and unemployment is there. All these prevent marriage. And then, of course, people are worried of marriage because the government has said you can marry, but you can't divorce. So people are saying, if I can't divorce, why should I marry? All these are multiplicative factors. We don't think of all this. We don't think of all this when China says, I've flown a rocket to the moon or I have a great missile. Why do you think I say China will, collapse? China will collapse because the demography is collapsing. If people collapse, how will China continue? And we'll talk of that a little later, one of these days. These are things coming out of the Chinese website. This is all China Morning Post headlines. Put a ring on it. Chinese women don't want marriage anymore. They come to such a stage where provinces or regions are doing matchmaking business. They are helping bachelors find wives because they're not there. Yeah, it will do good for Pakistan to send a few of them there. Pakistan sends donkeys to China, they can send some other wives. It's a racket. And there's a racket which is from Bangladesh also. Bangladesh has got a racket where people are Bangladeshi girls are told, go to China and get married and be happy and all that. People go and end up as sex slaves. This is documented. Okay. I mean, this is funny. Couples who break up hold parties, and their divorce rates are increasing despite everything else. You have to understand what's happening in Chinese society besides what we normally talk. And all this comes from their thing. It's not my imagination. Let's talk of this, birth rates and death rates. This is crude, right? Their death rates are increasing, their birth rates are decreasing. Right? Fewer people being born, more people dying. Right? This death rate could vary. It could vary because there's longevity of life has increased due to medicine, all that. But equally, the birth rates are only going. So, but what is the effect? There will be social issues. There are inadequate pensions. The pension funds in China, as of today, even as of today, are not adequate beyond 2035. The last I heard was till 2035 they have some pension funds, and the pension is not enough for people. Rural pensions go down as low as 200 yuan. What is 200 yuan? I leave it to you to think of. The insufficient healthcare in the rural areas, खास करके, and for old people. Today, there's a phenomenon where nurseries are turning into nursing homes or old age homes. Insurance benefits are not there, and people are fighting against insurance benefits. There, people have come out on the streets and talking of it. All this doesn't come out. One odd video comes out because they suppress all this information from us. But there are cases where people have got onto the streets and have protested against lack of insurance. Provinces have taken away their medical insurance. There's lack of people. Okay. And the working age population is reducing. So all this will induce societal problems which are coming. Now, you'll say, look, they might come later, not now and all. But if you see just the past 1 year, there have been cases of road rage where people have mowed down people. People have gone and killed 60. There's one guy who went into a crowd and killed 60 people in one go. There was a knife attack. There's something or the other which is happening. Which earlier then probably never happened, or it was suppressed. So the story that everything in China is peaceful and all is all nonsense. Sheer nonsense. Okay. Then this is the birth and fertility rate. This came out last year. This is not a new graph. This is an old graph. And this is from South China Morning Post. See, it's gone down. Okay. Now, their fertility rate has gone down below 1.09 way back in 2022. And this is their data. In places like Shanghai, it was just 0.6 in 2023. And I showed you the main provinces. It is not even 0.6. It's 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. It's a real collapse which is happening. We talk of property collapse. This collapse is even faster. People say, oh, no, government is giving incentives, all that. I'll talk about the incentives. I'll just talk about the incentives. Okay. But their thing is, I don't think they can even stabilize at 1. This is it. Why people don't get born in China. Cost of having children is still too high, benefits too low. No incentive is enough for people to give birth children. See, their logic is very simple. It takes 20 years for a child to become a taxpayer. Right? Now, if a government has to give money as incentive to have birth, a boy or a girl can get born. But it takes him 20 years to become a taxpayer, right? So till that government gets 20, has to wait for 20 years for tax from income from them. Why will they pay now? As it is, they are under debt. So they're reluctant. They're not giving enough incentive for encouraging childbirth. 12 to 17% wage drop for women who have children. This is important. People say, no, you should have allowed children, all that. But firms on the quiet say, don't have children. If you have children, your wages will drop. And then women, as per the government says give maternity leave, all that. But on ground, sorry, there's no maternity leave. Or if you want maternity leave, it will be unfair treatment or something like that. And then today there's a trend line where companies avoid children or avoid employing women who are in child bearing age. So if you are in that zone till about 30, you might not get employed. So if you don't get employed, you don't have money. If you don't have money, you can't have children. So it's a vicious thing which is going on in China. We don't understand it. All this has come out from their things. What are the cost of raising a child in China? It is 6.3 times more than China's GDP per capita. You talk not China's GDP per capita is high, but to raise a child in China, you need 6.3 times per capita income. In Australia, it is 2.08 times. In France, it is 2.24 times. In USA, it is 4.1 times. And Germany, it is 3.6. China beats everyone hollow on this metric. So why will people have children? The state will give you subsidies to produce electronic vehicles. State will give you subsidies to produce goods to be sold in USA. But the same state doesn't give subsidies to the Chinese people to produce children. So why will people produce children? That's the problem thing which most of us have to understand. All this are the subsidies given. House purchase subsidies, building nurseries, all that. But nothing is working. This is the listing which I got from various articles. I'll not go over this Dobby list. Okay. Now, this is very nice. China's pro-birth policy is not enough to counter demographic crisis, experts warn, or expert warns. So their policies, their incentives are not working. So in this article, one chap has said, look, if you want to have a child, it's like having a Ferrari. So he says, he's talking, the government should know that you're buying a Ferrari and the government is giving you a coupon worth 100 yuan. So how can it be happening? I mean, at times the humor of the situation is going, it's something. Okay. So a child is like a Ferrari with 100 yuan coupon. So will anyone go for it? No. Okay. Then the Chinese government people are calling up women. Now, if you are in a particular age group, you might get a call from the local government chap, if I have a child, why are you not having a child? Okay. It's a very humorous thing again. Right. Who asked them? The same guys who once upon a time spoke to these women not to have a child are now asking them to have a child. That's what this is verbatim. Grassroots government workers who spent decades imposing strict birth control policies now call up women to urge them to get pregnant. So there's a conversation which goes like that. Is that Mr. Huang? Sorry to disturb you. I am from your sub-district office. Are you pregnant now? He's the same guy who rang her up some time back to tell her don't get pregnant. And then when she asked why, that lady asked Mrs. Huang, "Why are you not having taking getting pregnant?" I told her I have no money, no time, no energy for a second baby. This is the kind of conversations which are going on. And you have to keep searching and reading, and then you come out with all this. Okay. Look at the aging factor. In China in 1980, there were 11 workers for each aged person. Today, there are 3 to 4.3. By 2040, they'll come to 2. By 2050, they'll be 1.5. Okay? That means there are 3 people working to take care of every aged person. But this is not the truth. This is based on those original figures. From my side, I think somewhere it's you cut it down by another 25%. So this situation is going very fast. See, after a point of time, the fall is geometric in order. I think they have come to the geometric scale. As time goes by, this geometric progression will be more pronounced. Now, as workforce increases or shrinks and the aging takes place, economic growth will slow. It will reduce government revenues. Elderly population will drive up pension costs and taken care costs. And for every one newborn which is born, 6 people will die. That's the ratio which is going to happen. Already you are in 3 or 4 ratio. It's actually in a bad shape. I mean, we don't realize it. Then they want to delay retirement. One of the ways to offset your pension bill is you delay the retirement. Now, if that means a chap who's in service continues to serve, fine, you can do that. But if a chap continues to serve, a new guy doesn't get a job at the bottom. Now you encourage an old guy to continue serving. New guy doesn't get a job. If he doesn't get a job, he'll not get married or have a child also. You look at the fun. Both sides. The problem, it's like China's case is like a rope which is burning from both ends, and there is no way to douse it. There's no way to douse it. Look at the household size in China. 82, it was 4.41 per people in a house. 4 to 5, 6. In 2010, it was 3. By then, the one-child policy had started getting affected. Okay. In 2020, it is 2.62. That is, 30% of the families didn't have children. The actual situation could be worse. What about that pension spending? It was 1.5% of a household's disposable income in 1980. It increased to 12% by 2022. See the growth in the pension and how they're earning. And if there's an economic downturn, it will be only worse, which is there, it will not go out. 1/3 of China's provinces are grappling with pension deficits. Okay. In Heiliangjiang, pension expenditures account for 29% of household disposable income. 30%. And then there is an interesting thing which comes out. The last one, I'll read it out and I'll explain it. Women disproportionately bear the cost of low fertility rates and aging populations because they generally outlive men. Women have life longevity. And as they age, they face more health problems. Men have largely lesser health problems and they die fast. Women have more health problems and they live longer. And if there are no pensions and their basic needs are not there, what will happen? And they're forced to work beyond their retirement age, and after that, they are not going to be cared. There are other issues which I will talk. There's one other person who, Raja Kalangi, he's written a mail to me and he's analyzed the effects of uh, the reduced population. I'll talk of that separately. I'll talk of that connected with economy, and I'll talk. But these are the fundamental facts which are there. There's something called unlocking silver economy. I'll talk with what Raja has written to me. They're asking elderly people to work. Well, the workforce is also shrinking at many places. I'm not spoken of military, all that I'll talk later. And then this is another thing. 60% of Chinese above 60 are empty nesters because they have no one to take care of them. There are no children at home. Then this China's burned out young urbanites flock to youth nursing homes. This is a social effect. Kangping, all that. People are working 996 routine, so they are going to nursing homes. It's mental. Turning, China's kindergartens are turning into homes for the aged. Because there are no children, all the kindergartens will become nursing homes. Provinces are cutting back on teacher recruitment. In Jiangxi, they cut by 54.7% in 2 years, 2 years back. So if you're cutting that, then no, the job market is even worse. Unemployment, this figure I've shown many times. And there's something more interesting. There's a disconnect or there's a connect with the property crisis. Now, if the houses surge and everything goes up, uh, they discourage marriage and fertility. If I'm married, I won't have a child because I've said, you see how costly it is to have a child in China. But if I have a house which I'm stuck with and I'm paying mortgage on it, I can't sell it off. So I will not have a child. Or if I'm alone and I'm stuck with a flat, all that, I'll not get married. So the property crisis has also had an effect on this. And then 10% increase in house prices implies reduction of 0.01 to 0.03 births per woman. It has already happened when the property was going up. Now it is happening when the property is going down because it's so obnoxious. This one factor of property is comparable to the increase of female education, impact of female education. Just the property thing has a correlation. The number of women who don't want to get married because of their education, job opportunities, and all, that many people are not getting married because of property crisis. These are hidden facts. And then they have a single man problem. 30 million more than women. That is just the total number. And these single men are basically from lower level. They are not getting married. They're from urban or rural areas. They don't have any prospects for marrying, no children, no nothing. Well, this is the bleak landscape of China's population. I've just given you the landscape. The analysis of this I'll do separately because you can't do everything together. Okay. I do hope you people have liked it. If you liked it, press the like button. Do subscribe to Gunner Shot. And I'd request many of you to join me as members. Okay. And very soon I might start having members only live shows. Okay. And that's how it is. And I'll open it up to others later. So that's one of the things. So if you want to join this morning only thing, so it might be only for members. Yeah, we'll see that. But that I'll later. I'll give it some time. Right. Now, before I take questions on, I want to put across something to all of you. And this is this. I got this, today. And I've been getting such messages, and not messages, comments. He says, Gaurav Thakur, YouTuber making video on Northeast separatism. Timing is important. So these YouTubers trading money from China, USA to propagate agenda against India and all that. What I wanted, I don't know who Gaurav Thakur is and what his YouTube on, or program on Northeast separatism is and all that. I don't know. Plus, today I got someone saying, there's someone guy who's talking of a nuclear, where nuclear weapons of Pakistan, of USA are in Pakistan, and that we've hit them and this and that. And all that. I sincerely think that all of you must be careful to draw conclusions from every Tom, Dick, and Harry talking about all these things. Some of these chaps are fly-by-night operators trying to make money. Okay, so you have to understand. I would suggest, if you're serious, if you want masala, you go to these YouTube. If you're serious about getting authentic information, go to those guys who know what they're talking, with credentials. Okay, with credentials. And I have always maintained that I will give you the truth. Okay, I will give you the truth. I will analyze as we are this thing. For example, Op Sindoor, we faltered in our information campaign and narrative. It's a fact. Let's accept it. Pakistan was better at it. China was better at it. We could have done everything on ground. We lost. So we must recognize it and correct it. Similarly, there is a problem in the Northeast. I know there is a problem in the Northeast. It's not now. We've had it ever since we got independence. But a lot of those problems are gone. Now to say there's a Northeast terrorism and separatism and all that. And some of these chaps are selling this who could be paid by others. For example, that chap Gaurav Thakur, I don't even know who he is. Who is he? So authenticate what you're watching. Don't fall to disinformation. And social media is a place where you have to be very discreet if you are looking for correct information. If not, it doesn't matter. Then you can keep seeing whoever you want. And some of these channels, even big channels, talk without authentication. And they have political affiliations. I have none. I have no agenda. I have only one agenda, that is India. I'm taking time to tell you all this because you have to be discreet in what if you want a political agenda. If you want me to say tomorrow we'll defeat Pakistan and Pakistan will finish off, all that, don't come to this channel. You go to some other channel. Okay, so be discreet. This is a serious issues which you are seeing. It affects our country, and don't believe all of them. Okay. And I would suggest you come live and ask questions. In the morning, especially, I take a lot of questions. I have no problem. 10-15 minutes, no, doesn't matter. Right? Even if the guys who are trolling, it doesn't matter. I have no issue. Okay. So I thought I'll put all these across to you. And now we'll take some questions. Rajiv, thanks a lot. Rajiv, thanks a lot for becoming a member. Grateful to you. Right. I'll take a few questions from the top so that we come down, and I'll take interesting questions. Yeah. Raja Chaitanya Kalanji, thanks a lot for your mail, Raja. The next thing which I do, I'll analyze it along with the other effects. I think you did a good analysis, and I'll get back to you. Not today. It has to be in a separate thing because today I laid out the landscape of the decline. The analysis of the decline, I'll do it a little later. Yeah, China's population is declining by 30,000 persons a day. Completely feasible. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I have no doubt that there are major problems. Uday Perry, thanks a lot for your contribution. Honored. Right. Morning, Rupayan and Mrs. Claris, Jai Hind, General Jai Hind. Yeah, Ashok, morning. How are you? Oh, right. The TFR chart looks dismal. It is worse than dismal. I was looking at a radical Chinese. He was telling to his fellow Chinese that numbers are not important, but technology. But that was when they were talking about a robot army. They're fools. Nothing better than a Chinese fool. Sudarshana, thanks a lot. How are you? Morning. Mm, 2.1 for developed country, 2.2 for developed country, and 2.4 for underdeveloped country. 10 women should produce more than 22 children. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. 0.37 is 100 women producing 37 in Jilin. It's pretty dismal. We don't understand how bad China is. And that is why he doesn't go into taking a war, shore, and all that. It collapsed. It's kind Chinese Communist Party will collapse. And who are the ones who did all this? It is the same guys. Mao, Deng Xiaoping, and now Xi Jinping. They're killing China. They've killed China. In fact, I put it in the past tense. Yeah, they don't need population because they're highly into AI and robotized high tech. Pilgrim, I think you should also not live on this earth. You go because AI will take care of your death and your children and your wife and all, isn't it? That's the logic you're adopting. That's actually foolish. Yes, read yesterday in the past year there were only 7 lakhs births in Japan and their PM called it a silent crisis. Even Vietnam has scrapped two-child policy. Do we need any population control in India? We don't need any population control. There's no population control in India. We should tell people to keep going the way they are. Yeah, your explanation make even complex topic easy to understand, even for kids. The video on Brahmaputra was excellent. Could you please make a video on Iran's nuclear program? Yeah, I actually made it. I made a complete video. If you go into this thing and see Iran, you'll get the thing on Iran's nuclear program. I've made a complete video. This was about 2 months back. I made. If I have to repeat it, I'll repeat it. Yeah. While India is blessed with favorable demographics, could it also be a liability in terms of mouths to feed? I don't think so. We've gone past that stage. We've gone past that stage. Today, the movement of labor all over India is huge. I've seen in South India, places like Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, labor is coming as far as from Bihar, UP to work, Nepal, Bihar, UP to work. So we have no problem really. People are, labor mobility is there. In fact, China has another problem. There is no mobility of labor in China. They're migrant guys, labor. They can only go to a few places. They can't go to all. So they have other issues. We don't have. Yeah, COVID death figures too are extremely underreported. I completely agree with you. Uh, yeah, India needs a census. It's been declared, so it'll happen. Right. Who will be China's next president? How will he keep his relations with India? We'll talk of it when some things become clear. Because at this point of time, there's still a power struggle going on. Xi Jinping has surfaced. He's spoken to Trump. He's met Lukashenko. And let's see how things pan out. So far, there's a power struggle. That there's no doubt. Yeah, again, this thing keeps coming. Will future be not of AI or robots to replace decline in population for economic growth? You know, Today only I saw an article which says this AI, AO, and all is going to kill Chinese economy. Because when all AI robots come, people are not going to get employed. When people are not going to get employed, their economic situation is going to get worse. This is their analysis, please. So don't ever think that AI and robotics and all it will replace people. You have a chap in a firm, he fires a guy without people. What's the outflow of that? If he fires a guy it's because he has adopted AI or robotics and all that, that guy who's been fired doesn't get a job. Who'll take care of him? The economy will go down even further. Yeah, demography is destiny. I doubt development has a direct correlation with fertility. It may have something to do with divorce rates and the desire not to have. No, there's no doubt. If you can't develop without children, let you can't do large scale development. Doesn't look some development will have. Is it good development or bad development? Something will happen. You know, with fertility and lack of it, there will be a development. What is the development all about? Will it be good for the nation? Your economy might go up because you're selling technology, but your defense will go down. You will not have a military which you can handle. If you don't have children, you can't afford losses in battle. If you can't afford losses in battle, your military can't fight. So I think you should start looking at these holistically. If those of you who come to this channel, one thing you know is that I think holistically, and I would like you to start thinking holistically. Yeah, all over China, all over the capacity China built, such as HSR, high speed rails, ghost cities, etc., were planned on population growth. Now these investments are gone to waste. Yeah, that's also a problem, incidentally. That's a major problem. Today, the entire high speed rail is running at massive loss. And maybe I'll do another thing on high speed rail one of these days. What are the economics of high speed rail? The fundamental premises on high speed rail have been thrown out. I mean, I'll spend a minute on this. All high speed rail stations are not near cities. They are 30 to 40 to 50 kilometers away from cities. They are not between two population centers. They're not near population centers. They're in the middle of nowhere. The idea of this is, why? Because if a high speed rail station comes in a desolate place, that land value will appreciate and people will buy and development will take place there. It's not happened. As a result, no one goes by that high speed rail and development has not happened and they're getting hit. One has to understand this AI, robotics, AO, high tech and all. Just don't fall for it. Look at it 360 degrees. And if you want, I'll do a program on high speed rail one of these days. China is finished. General, you don't need to make it more crystal clear. Why are you putting so much efforts to establish China has nothing? People have understood by now. It's over. Now you might have understood, but not many people in India understand this. And not many people in India know how to deal with this problem. You have to have a strategy to deal with the problem. I'm not trying to convince you. Please understand. I'm trying to convince a person who doesn't understand it. And I'm trying to convince the set of people who are making strategies against China. How do you bet against China? You bet against China only by knowing what's happening in China and make it up to date. Okay. Just because something has happened, see, this is the thing which we happened with Pakistan. We thought Pakistan is finished. Everyone knows Pakistan is finished, but yet they have the capability to fight. How do you fight them? You have to fight them differently, isn't it? You have to fight them based on the circumstances. So if China is your competitor, you have to compete with them based on their circumstances. So this is not a general education class or convincing people. This is all linked to overall strategy, Indian strategy. Yeah, Communism is also one of the biggest brainwashing ideology. First, yeah, I agree with you. Tibet TFR is also 1.9. I think some places it is given as about 2.3 or something like that. So it will vary. Yeah, Murugesan, good morning. How are you? Ashok Kumar says authentic data from adversary make you ready for future action. I agree. Mm, how can India effectively use cognitive warfare and negative branding to exploit China's aging crisis and tarnish its global image, thereby boosting India's strategic? You have to make it happen. It's lying there. It's that weakness is lying in the open, and we don't talk enough of it. We don't talk on. That's why I try to do it every 3 4 months on population, yeah, all that. But people have to speak of it. This has to be discussed. Articles have to come out. People have to discuss. Many people say, no, population crisis hone wala hai, it doesn't matter. You have to project into the future. What will happen? That's why I keep saying the critical point for China, the way I look at it, is 2030. And the critical point for India is also 2030 because by then, 2030, you should be in the region of $6 to $7 trillion economy. And China will be on its way down because after that, their population is going to go nosedive. And around that time, by then, and if their figures which I'm researching on are the way it is, then their collapse would have started already. Not recall, there'll still be a big economy. After all, there'll be still 1 billion people there. But they'll be aged, they'll talk a different tune. Their societal problems will come up, everything. We'll see after this 5 years more. Be patient. Loved your analysis, become a fan of your program, spreading your channel amongst my office colleagues and relatives. Yeah, this one you must. This one, especially, people need to understand what's happening in China. It's just not there. You know. Yeah, India has the best of everything. India doesn't need to bother. All its adversary are finished all by themselves. The general's assessment is correct. Thanks a lot now. But I would also like to put a word of caution. We should not get carried away. Right? We should not get carried away by our own success. We have to be steady. We have to be rooted in reality. We have to work hard. It's not just that China and India, there's a whole world who doesn't like India's rise for many reasons. Okay, they're apprehensive. They are apprehensive for new power. So we have to know constantly about our adversaries. We have to know constantly about our the environment in which we are, and we have to be rooted to reality. Was the move of Biden administration to allow 10 million plus migrants a positive move? Look, Sudhakar, the fact is that America strives on immigration. Uh, you have to see that why did Biden allow this? For the fact that they need working hands. But the quality of immigration is something which you have to see. Will it increase radicalism in America? Is the question. Will it, invert their ethnic and demographic balance? Is the issue, right? That is something which, right? That's the issue. Okay. Perfect prediction and cartoon tech without humans is nothing. Yeah. Excellent presentation. Thank you. But isn't this a wake up call for Indians? It is. It is. Whatever is happening to them will happen to you tomorrow. Is it okay if I use your analysis and videos for reference? Yeah, please take. No, go ahead. I believe there are many who will find it difficult to understand as you're pretty much technical. No problems. Go ahead. Yeah, Korea, Japan, and Europe also face this problem. I agree, Amitesh, they face this problem, but not at the magnitude at which uh, China is facing. This dilemma of to be or not to be was depicted very nicely by our Devanand Sab way back in the 60s. I completely agree with you, Arunachal. By some estimates, a collapse is likely in 20 to 45 demographic is already miscounted by 200 million. Yeah, what could be? I will come to that. We'll talk of it because I've got your long analysis. I'll put together something more of mine and then we'll talk. Maybe next week we'll talk of it. Maybe China should merge with Taiwan. It will not. And even Taiwan has a bad problem. Huh? Taiwan has probably got a worse problem. If that the state, why bring fungus to UK to kill US agriculture? Yes. Sichuan province gives 25 extra days of maternal leave. I don't think so. I mean, they have a problem. I've shown to you. See, many of our articles which come are half-baked articles. They don't give the full picture. They give some news. A reporter writes something and gives. That's not analysis. That's reportage. There's a difference between reporting and analysis. I try and do analysis. I don't report to you. That's why anything happens, I don't come and say this has happened. I wait and then analyze, give myself time to analyze and then come to you. Yeah, Pak is an army with a state and China appears to be a state without people. I think so. They're both at the expense of their. The birth rate in Uyghur and Tibet is mathematical proof of ethnic cleansing. I completely agree with you. Completely. And overall, China will pay for it. There's no doubt. On that, let's not have doubts. Yeah, it's not going to work. I agree. Humanoid robots will balance everything out. Yeah, yeah. The Muslim है यार तुम. You are from Pakistan. I'm very clear. तेरा तो तुम लोगों तो हालत उल्टा है. उस बच्चों को भेज दो ना चाइना में. वो तो लेगा नहीं तेरा. तेरा गधे लेंगे, तेरा लड़कियों को लेंगे, तेरे को नहीं लेंगे. Yeah, for centuries, the Chinese mindset has been exploitation of weak by powerful. Communists also did the same. Only the definition of powerful was changed. 100% agree with you. Yeah, decline of population in China is done because of Nixon Kissinger Deng Xiaoping deal. Look, I think you got your finger thing wrong. The deal was not between Deng Xiaoping and Nixon Kissinger. It was between Mao. Okay, this happened in 72 and Mao died in 74. So get your fundas right. Pado up. This don't. Very surprising combination of unemployment with falling population. Looks like human natural evolution cycle is going in reverse. That's what China has achieved. Fantastic review with accurate, spot on statistics of falling demography and rope in regions bursting at either end. Yeah, burning at either ends. Must know our current enemy. Yep. Let me see. As a Bihari living in Shillong from generations, my father has had a hard time. My father had a less hard time. I, as a 19-year-old, very less problems in Northeast. That's how our country has progressed. Okay, people have melded. I see a lot of people from North here in Tamil Nadu, which was completely anti-Hindi at one point of time. Today they speak beautiful Tamil and they behave very well. And that I see a lot of people talking Hindi, Tamilians. Think our country has grown. That's the best part of our country. The best thing of our country is people have mixed. Thanks for your incisive and detailed analysis, but I doubt since all this data is of Chinese government origin, how can we be sure Chinese are not cooking up this to fool other countries? No, yeah, how can you do this? They have fooled themselves. Forget about us. They fooled themselves. Okay, they fooled themselves. Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Unfortunately, even channels like Jaipur Dialogues is spreading this narrative of Indian strikes on Pak, US strategic nuclear. I don't agree with it. I don't agree that we've wantedly targeted nuclear assets and all that. Um, I don't think we're so foolish. Okay. I don't think that strike on Kirana Hills happened. It might have happened somewhere near. I don't think so. Or we might have fired one odd shot to give them a warning. But to have targeted the nuclear thing and all, no. What is right is that we took out that nuclear command post, in Nurkan. That is 100% sure. Why I'm saying I'm 100% sure is I know what BrahMos can do. Honest. This, I know exactly what BrahMos can do. That is why that gunner shot opening, is actually, this is actual BrahMos missile firing, which I did long back. And BrahMos is capable of taking that little command post out. And I think it is. Yeah, Uday Peri, we've said. Geetanjali, thanks a lot for your contribution. And many of these channels, like Jaipur Dialogue and all, Jaipur Dialogue is quite authentic. That's why I go and speak. And Mr. Sanjay Dixit is a friend of mine, and he's quite sharp. And he's an IAS officer after all. But what happens is some guys come and speak nonsense even there. Okay, some, not all. So you have to be a little discerning whom you speak. Okay, and some of the others channels which are quite famous, which you chaps see, they're all nonsense. Nonsense. That's why I don't go to any channel where there's nonsense otherwise. I just don't go. People who don't even know their, backside from their elbows start talking of geopolitics. भाई जियोपॉलिटिक्स को समझने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी समझने के लिए to how to employ weapons ये वो you need to understand. And another thing which I must tell you, that anyone who comes on my channel, whatever he is very careful of what he speaks. I must tell you this. I've seen some of the people who come on my channel and speak, they speak one language here and they go outside and speak another language. Here, if anyone speaks something which is not correct, I check them. I'm very clear. And a couple of senior officers who come and who have spoken out of, that circle, I have told them stop. Or I've shown them a red flag, or I've shown them a truth card. And I put it. I don't do it offensively, but I do it in my own way. So people are very careful what they speak here. I'm also very careful what I speak. That is why I show articles. It's all backed. There's nothing. It's researched. It's not faltu. Everything which I say is backed in an article. I can give you a website for it from where I picked up, referenced. Yeah, that's a good question. What's the real population of China? I don't know, Rishabh, to be very honest. I mean, I think it could be around anything between 1.1 to 1.2 billion or 1.28 billion, if you go by what that Ufixian says. So I don't think even China knows it. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, good morning, General. Great to hear your good morning every morning and feel home every time. We'd like to hear from you about the advanced level of quantum computing in China. I'll do that one of these days. Okay, sir, Topiwala population plus feminist laws, bad news for good people. Well, these are part of life. You have to go it. Look, make video comparing India versus China. Which are the areas India needs to improve comparing? I don't think we should get involved with that. We should do what is good for our dharma and what is good for our progress. That's the way to go forward. Okay. Um, could you do a comprehensive program on infrastructure development in Arunachal? Uh, Rawal Sharma, have a look at that video I put out. The Chinese have given a correct assessment of what is happening in Arunachal. Go to that. I put it out. The Chinese are keeping track. I might not know, but the Chinese know. Getting extra entertainment from trolls. I agree with you. Yeah, I'll make a video on high speed rails one of these days. It will be interesting. It's very interesting on its own right. Yeah. USA doesn't allow any country to be more than 60% of its GDP. Whenever any country crosses this threshold, like Japan, they start screw fighting. Is India even prepared for this? One of the things about India is they can't turn the screws on India. That's why they're very worried. They're very worried because of this. Because the moment I forget about 60% of its GDP and all. The moment you become $7 to $10 trillion, 7, 8, 9 trillion dollars, then you are uncontrollable. India is uncontrollable. Pakistan and all won't. Pakistan will be just washed away after that. And which I keep telling everyone, India cannot be controlled because India is a consuming economy. They could control China, they could control Japan, they could control Germany because these were producing economies who couldn't consume. And the consumption was dependent on USA, so they're this thing. With us, it doesn't matter. That's their worry, actually. The fundamental reason why all these Western countries are worried is India grows without them. Your rate of growth might be lesser if you don't have them, but even without them, you keep growing. You're unstoppable. That's the problem that they have. Okay, right. Okay. I see one joker from China trying to troll me, but that's okay. That's good entertainment whenever he trolls, right? Obviously, that's his job. He's paid to troll. So let him troll. Usse kya lena dena. Okay, fine. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I'll get back at 7 o'clock in the evening with Mr. Sanjay Dixit. We'll talk on China again today, and the subject he'll decide and join in. Right? I still feel Jaipur Dialogues is a good platform. P Gurus is a good platform. These are the two platforms I go to. In Hindi, I'm looking at alternate media. I know alternate media talks a lot of right wing stuff, but I am trying to develop in Hindi. So those of you who want Hindi programs or particular topics in Hindi, just let me know. Give me a message or put it in your comments, and I'll pick it up. And every Wednesday I'll come in Hindi. Right. With this, thank you. Have a great day till evening 7 o'clock. And Jai Hind.